From loving the way Khabib carries himself as a Muslim to even choosing himself as one of the greatest fighters in the UFC, it seems that Jon Jones's list has intrigued many around the globe for its peculiarity. Today, we're going to talk about Jon Jones's pick for the best MMA fighters. Let's start with who Jon Jones is. Jon Jones is one of the most revered UFC legends of all time. With an impressive record of 26-1-0, Bones is considered to be one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time. He's known for his exceptional talent and determination to give it his all in every fight. The New York native drew attention to the MMA world from an early age. In 2008, at the age of 21, Jon made his professional MMA debut and swiftly gained a reputation for being one of the toughest fighters in the UFC. His victory over Mauricio Rua at UFC 128 earned him the light heavyweight championship. Jones quickly demonstrated dominance in his division with 6 successful title defenses between 2011 and 2015. His victory against Daniel Cormier at UFC 182, which is considered to be one of the most outstanding MMA fights of the decade, was particularly noteworthy. Although Jones was declared the winner by unanimous decision, many commended Cormier for putting up a tough fight. In 2016, Jones was suspended after a press conference brawl with Cormier, marking the beginning of a series of controversies that caused Jones to miss several bouts. But after his return in July 2017, he went on to win the fight against Cormier at UFC 214 and regained the light heavyweight title. Alas, the win was ruled a no contest after Jones failed a post-bout drug test for turinabol. While this severe blow to Jones's career was difficult to cope with, after a year of suspension and community service, he returned to the octagon to reclaim his belt. In his previous title fights, Jones once again asserted complete dominance, earning 2 back-to-back knockout victories. Even in his most rough times, Jones's reputation for skill and technical prowess provided him with a platform to return to top form and make history as one of the greatest UFC legends. Today, Jones remains the reigning champion of the light heavyweight division, but it seems that even champions have their moments of backlash from the crowd. Jones has been involved in some controversial incidents, some of which have tarnished his reputation. Jon first drew attention when he was suspended in 2015 after testing positive for a banned substance. Despite having his title stripped, he maintained that he hadn't knowingly taken the banned substance. That year, he also had his driver's license revoked after a series of arrests for drunken driving and hit-and-run charges. He was given a probation sentence and had to serve 18 months of supervised release. In 2016, he ran afoul with USADA, the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency, and was suspended for 1 year after testing positive for 2 banned substances. This had a major effect on his career and reputation in the sport, and he was once again stripped of his title. When he returned to the octagon, he successfully regained it, and many argued that the suspension had been a harsh one. Jon had been cited for his bad temper as well. In 2018, he was infamously involved in a backstage brawl at the UFC Fight Night in Las Vegas. He was given a 15-month suspension after the incident and also had to pay a hefty fine. Jon's issues with the USADA have continued to haunt him. In 2019, he was handed down a second suspension after testing positive for an anabolic steroid. His reputation was damaged even further, and he had to serve a 20-month suspension period. Jon Jones is an immensely talented fighter, but his controversial incidents have made it difficult for him to fully capitalize on his talent and maintain a good reputation. Despite all of this, his fans still love and support him, and many people believe that he can regain his former glory. But it seems that along with his glory, Jones recognizes the exceptional skills of some other UFC fighters as well. In an interview with BJ Penn, Jones talked about who he thinks is the best in the UFC. After being asked about his top 5 fighters in the UFC, the star surprisingly replied with his name. Naturally, he had to add himself to the list as well. He said, excluding the notorious. My top 5? Let's see here. If I may, I'd list myself, Anderson Silva, Georges St. Pierre, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Jose Aldo. At least they are my favorites. When asked about his list, he openly replied why Khabib made the list. He said, I adore what Khabib stands for. We previously disagreed, and I've made some quotes about him, but there has never actually been beef. I adore how he conducts himself as a Muslim and how he represents his nation. I love the successful businessman he is. He just seems like a good man who's generous. He's a good man and deserving of respect. I'm grateful that he's here. Now, while many may be thinking as to why the UFC champion may have taken these names, I'm here to explain exactly why. Anderson Silva is one of the most legendary fighters in the history of mixed martial arts. He has a long list of unforgettable moments and records that make him stand out among his peers. One of his biggest moments was handing undefeated champion Vitor Belfort his first loss in over 9 years at UFC 126. Silva won the fight in the first round with a spectacular front kick that is still talked about to this day. Another highlight of Anderson's career was his title defense against Chael Sonnen at UFC 117 in 2010. He was down for most of the 5-round fight, but managed to pull off a submission win with only 2 minutes left. It was an incredible comeback from a seemingly impossible situation, and it cemented Silva as one of MMA's all-time greats. Anderson Silva won 16 fights in a row from 2006 to 2013, which is a record that still stands. Now, enough about him. Let's talk about the third fighter on the list. Georges St. Pierre is a living legend in the MMA scene. He has an impressive record of 28 wins and 2 losses, with his victories coming against some of the greatest fighters in the sport. His last fight was a split decision win against Michael Bisping in 2017. This made him one of the few fighters to come back from a 4-year retirement and still defeat a top-level competitor. GSP's best moments have been during his title fights. He held the featherweight championship from 2008 to 2013 and the welterweight championship from 2017 to now. He had a dominant stretch at welterweight, defending the title 9 times, a record which still stands to this day. And not only his championship success, but GSP is also renowned for his incredible fight IQ and ability to size up his opponents. His ability to read the fight and adjust his strategy mid-match is one of his greatest skills. Speaking of excellent skills, the 5th fighter on the list doesn't lack any. Jose Aldo is a Brazilian mixed martial artist who has accomplished some amazing feats in his career. He's best known for becoming the first ever UFC featherweight champion, as well as for his incredible 18-fight win streak from 2005 to 2012. From 2005 to 2012, Aldo went on an incredible streak of 18 consecutive wins, some of which were against some of the toughest opponents in all of MMA. His last 5 wins in the streak were all title defenses, cementing his place as one of the greatest fighters to ever compete in the featherweight division. In 2010, he captured the undisputed UFC featherweight championship with a first-round TKO over Manny Gambaryan at UFC 125. He held on to the title until 2015, when he lost it to Conor McGregor at UFC 194, ending his 7-year reign as champion. Still, he's definitely one of the hottest fighters in the UFC. That's all for the Jon Jones pick for the greatest MMA fighters ever.